All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another deep dive episode. This one is super special because it's actually not deep dive with another protocol. Today we have on Julio.
Yeah,
Uh,
Julio, yes.
Julio. um, he's a researcher and he recently just published a paper on the history of oracles. I met him last year. We went to the Oracle conference in Berlin.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
and
awesome.
it was super great. And yeah, so I'm excited to kind of get into hearing what you have to say. So yeah, I mean, just kicking off.
Yeah.
How did you get on this?
Well, should we spoiler?
Sure.
well, into this type of article or in the Oracle sector in general? Uh, well, I am interested in oracles from a broader perspective in the sense that I study Oracle scheme. For example, the Athens Oracle, Delphic Oracle, for example, how they work, what was the role of the Pythia, of the High Priestess, so how those systems were leveraged in democratic system, how can oracles could be means of governance, for example, so it's from a broader perspective. And when blockchain and Bitcoin came around, I started to be interested in blockchain and in oracles, in blockchain oracles in 2018. So, that was this my personal path in this field. And about Oracle history, well, it's your fault actually.
All right.
Or my fault probably because you we discussed about the opportunity of research and you suggest me about investigating oracle history, and I thought that actually it was a great theme because we don't really have documents or something really I mean um something academic style, because there are not even blog article on that, not really systemized research or systemized data, so I wanted to do something more uh, of quality on this subject, and I think it's very important as uh, it's a very important subject because I believe it's important to understand how Oracle started, how where they plan to work, and there was a big gap, I think, in the literature because we have, like the modern history of Oracle from the advent of Ethereum from 2016-17, but Oracle are older, I believe. Definitely older, and so yeah, we had this big gap, and I tried to fill this gap in the literature actually, and I hope I managed to cover at least the bigger part of the history that we missed.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of threw a whole lot out there. I guess first of all, like, what can you briefly describe like the history before blockchains? Like, I know you had like said like Delphi and some of those other Oracle pieces. Like you were actually looking into those before, even other oracles. Like,
Yeah,
how does that even relate?
that relates actually because uh, that is a very interesting part of the history of Oracle that should be known, because the Oracle problem is uh, not something that is, new. It's very old. It can trace back before the advent of Christ, because it's about Greek history. And just to give an idea, um, when the Athens Senate had to consult the Oracle, for example, to take a decision, they couldn't call the priestess directly. So you understand that uh, they had to make a question from the Senate, and the oracle, the Pythia, has to answer, but from the temple, because the Pythia could not exit from the temple. Okay? So a trusted person has to send a message from the Senate, and he has to bring it to the temple of the Pythia. Okay? And then the Pythia cannot write. She could not write. She had to speak the answer to this trusted person. And this trusted person had to write the answer on some paper, on some leaves, actually. Not everything on the same paper, on some leaves. And those leaves have to be brought back to the Senate and spoken to the Senate, okay? So you understand that there is a problem in doing that, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong in this mechanism,
For
okay?
sure.
Because you have to trust this trusted person. You have to trust that this person has understood the message of the Pythia correctly, and he had written it correctly, and he hasn't modified the order of the leaves. Okay. So that was the oracle problem in the ancient history. Being sure that the man that you sent to the Pythia was really trusted, that he understood the message correctly, and it was brought back without any change. And you realize that is something very similar to what we have now. And we have writings of 200 years that question this problem. They say, should we send another person with this one? Should we send two people? Should we ask the oracle again? How can we solve this oracle problem? And it's 2,000 year that people are questioning about this oracle problem. We still are talking about it, so it's not really easy to solve.
That's crazy fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And well, if we want to jump to 2000 forward
Yeah.
in future,
Fast forward.
yeah. Well, the history of blockchain oracle actually can be traced back to 2010, actually, from some discussion between Satoshi Nakamoto itself and a young developer called Mike Hearn, actually.
Were these in the original Satoshi emails? I guess he was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Uh, they are reliable in the sense they are probably true. That someone is not keen to believe that those are a real email, but there are many proof to say that those are real email from Satoshi Nakamoto. And also there are official posts on Bitcoin Talk forum from his account, his personal account. So I think those information are very reliable. The problem is that we don't have a lot of information about him, but the information that we have are reliable, I think. So basically, the Mike Hearn discovered some line of code into the Bitcoin into the Bitcoin software, and he was not aware of what they were for. And he asked to Satoshi Nakamoto what was those line of code for, and Satoshi said that they are for contracts, and those contracts were type of agreement on the Bitcoin chain to move like an amount of money, an amount of Bitcoin upon the signature of multiple parties. We, we have to think that it's 2010. We don't have all the application on Bitcoin. We didn't have script. We didn't have anything. So it was a sort of concept. Okay, so Nakamoto thought about those contracts, and this part of the history is interesting because we understand that the original name of application built on blockchain were contracts, were not smart contracts, just contracts. And talking with Mike Hearn, basically it came out that NameSmart was added later, also thanks to Nick Szabo that entered the team, and because the concern was that um, authorities may have thought that those contracts were supposed to interfere with the law. Since Bitcoin was very small, it could have been manipulated because it didn't have a very high hash rate. So they were afraid that having those things named just contract may have risen a bit too much concern. So they said, okay, let's add the word smart, so it looks like something more digital related, some
Right.
technological related. So that was the history of smart contract also. And after this example of contract made of many signature, Nakamoto, along with other researchers, with other developers, uh, they came out with another type of contract that above having only signature, they also add a condition, and this condition was based on time. For example, well, we all know the time lock, but by that time it was a big discovery, a big innovation, because you had one or two signature and then a third that was not a signature but a condition based on time. Say, okay, we put a signature and this amount of money is moved or can be moved after I mean, 100 blocks, for example, this amount of time. So for the first time, a condition was inserted in the into the into the Bitcoin transactions, and because of this, there is an email, or many email on my current that asked Nakamoto if this condition could also be based on some external state, like weather or an event, like I don't know, an election or something like this. Well, the reply of Nakamoto is quite um, uh, it's quite simple, and he hasn't got many doubts on this, because Nakamoto was not keen of adding this type of condition on Bitcoin. Uh, he preferred to add only time on the main chain, because he preferred to add other type of data, all the other type of data on side chains, because he was talking about, he endorsed actually a side chain named BDNS that that was being developed
Is
by
this
that
the
time.
does that what does that stand for? Bitcoin domain name service or
Yeah, but I don't think that the original BDNS is still around. It was just a proposal. Now there are other applications named BDNS, but they are not connected with the original one. I think they want just to exploit the name. And but it was just a theoretical experiment. It was not translated into actual code. But that was the actual idea of Nakamoto, from what we can gather from his email and his content uh, on Bitcoin Talk, because he said, okay, we can put the time as an external condition on the main chain. For any other type of data, we should use sidechain, okay, to avoid messing with the main chain, to avoid polluting the main chain. At least this was his idea. Of course, he left very early, so maybe he could change his mind, but this is what we can gather from his few declaration. And but however, Michael wanted to continue on this aspect, so to investigate on having external condition. So he opened a wiki page that was named Contracts in 2011, 10 or 11, if I'm not wrong. And he also made some talks in London in 2012, in which he advertised this possibility of utilizing Bitcoin for other applications that were not just the cryptocurrencies. And and to do that, he said that we need oracles. And the first time in which oracle appear in wiki page was on 25th of July 2011. The first appearance of the word oracle is on this date, on the Mike Hearn wiki page that was named contract, because he wanted to give an example of a contract involving an external state, and he used the contract of a will contract. So how to pass an amount of Bitcoin from a person who is dead to someone else, for example, from the grandfather to the grandson. Okay, so he made this contract of the grandfather public key and the grandfather key, the grandson key, and a third condition that was an hash of a string, like John Smith has died. John Smith, born on 1954, has died, and this condition should have been evaluated as true. And when this condition was verified, then the contract could be executed. This was just theoretical, however, because Michael never developed an actual oracle, because basically by that time it was 2011, so Bitcoin software was very young, so we didn't have the real framework to really exploit those kind of contract, to really leverage this kind of contract, because we didn't even have a wallet that supports contracts. Now with Ethereum we have MetaMask, but by that time we just have simple wallet on Bitcoin, and those wallets were not even interoperable. Now with the Ethereum application we can attach MetaMask or any other wallet and they work perfectly, but on Bitcoin we didn't have this kind of choice.
Well, I mean,
So
back then too, you know, like were changes to the Bitcoin code sort of
yeah,
necessary to make these oracles possible? Because I know Mike Hearn had sort of different visions on the path that Bitcoin should take, and
yeah,
um,
that is also a problem of uh, well, I wouldn't say a problem, but a characteristics of Bitcoin, because I would have explained that later. But the fact is that Bitcoin was born as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So there is a part of community, a consistent part of community that prefer that is used just for that. So of course you need to have some improvement, improvement or change to the code to support the contract, and there is a part of the community that has to vote, that has to contribute, that is against that. It's not like Ethereum, the world computer, that is supposed to support contracts. Bitcoin was born with another purpose. So of course you have a part of the community that wants to support contract, and another part that maybe is able to cooperate, is able to to code those kind of contract, but they just don't want to, because they want Bitcoin to be for something else. So so there was this kind of problem. However, Mike Hearn um, talk inspired many people, because yes, there were people against, but there were also people keen on having contracts. So Mike Hearn inspired many people in this new type of possibility. But still, we have to think that it was a lot of well, a lot of years ago, and Bitcoin was not what it is now. It was not intended as a big financial institution, and the community can be compared like a game, because people were just playing with the code, and all the community was just modders, so people trying to add some implementation, some sort of new feature. There were not really big interest around. Okay, there were not big financing around Bitcoin. Okay, so there were people with enthusiastic people that were trying to contribute with their time, with their effort, sometimes for free. Well, most of the times for free. So it was very lively. Well, lively. Uh, a community of enthusiasts. So in 2012 and 2013, we don't have actually Oracle project around, but we have a discussion and brainstorming phase in which people is debating on this possibility. So we have a lot of threads on Bitcoin Talk, for example, and some things on Reddit, and in which people start to hypothesize how to launch those applications on Bitcoin, how to gather external data, and Nakamoto was just disappeared. So it was a community that wanted to that was trying to reorganize its work agenda. So as you said, it was like a bit fragmented. Okay, so
Well, when did my current leave? It was probably in what
15.
2015.
Yeah, 2015, but it started to to be less involved. Yeah, already from 2014. Yeah, and um, well, the most productive year for oracles on Bitcoin was 2014, and it's also the only year of production of Bitcoin oracles because
Well,
because
after that, you start getting Ethereum, so it's you're
yeah,
not gonna, you're
because
not gonna fight them.
the the fact is that in 2012 13 it was a bit earlier, people were organizing. In 2014 people were starting to develop, to build, and to trying and to fail also. And in 2015 Ethereum came and people said, okay, let's build this thing on Ethereum, not on Bitcoin anymore. So a lot of projects that were maybe supposed to be built on Bitcoin, like Augur, for example, at the end it was built on Ethereum. So we don't have a lot of application built on Bitcoin, but it's interesting how those applications were built actually. The one on which I focused in this research are, for example, Reality Keys, Truthcoin, Odyssey, Counterparty, and Oraclize. There are also other few projects, but they didn't, gain the same popularity. Some also because some of them closed early, so there were just some concepts, some proof of concept. And I will probably insert some other information about those projects in some next version. But in this paper, I focused only on the, let's say, the major one. And I couldn't really organize them into a chronological order because actually it was a time in which people were not really interested in being the first. Okay, say, oh, I built the first oracle. They were just proposing some application. They didn't do it all in the same way. Someone did an announcement, someone did build a website, someone published a white paper. And so there is not really a mean to trace the exact time in which they started or which they published. So we should take, for example, uh, the time of starting the code or publishing the code. So I didn't want to order the project from the first to the last because it would have been like a contest, and it's not really professional. So I ordered the oracle by other mean, just to make the discussion more maybe uh, more coherent, probably.
So who
So
was first? I
uh,
mean,
now, the first that I will describe here, it's Oraclize. But many think that the first was reality, actually
Sure,
reality.
and shout out to Reality, Edmund. We had uh, we had him on, so
Yeah,
there's a previous episode. So like if you
yeah,
go
yeah. I know,
for
but
people watching this, you can go look like 3 months ago. I'll link it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely.
but
I will talk about Oraclize first because of some reason. But yeah, probably the first one to be launched was Reality Keys, but I will talk about it later. And well, uh, I will talk first about Oraclize because it looks like the most direct extension to my current proposal. Because basically the idea of Oraclize came to Thomas Bertani, which was touring just to present blockchain and its potential. And well, he noticed that people was very interested in third-party application and application built on Bitcoin and blockchain in general. So he thought that since those applications needed Oracle, probably Oracle would have been the next big thing in the blockchain space. So he focused on the development on an Oracle, and he was fascinated by the speech of Mike Kern in 2012. So he was also inspired by that speech, and he was inspired by his proposal of Oracle. So what he did with Oraclize was trying to add some features, some layers of security to the Oracle proposed by Mike Hearn. So it was an extension to these conditional transactions, basically, um, because uh, of course the script proposed by Mike Hearn could uh, point directly to an API. But what Thomas wanted to add uh, to this design was a system that allowed the script to point to any type of API without any adaptation. Okay, so it's more or less what API tree does. Okay, that can make any API compatible with blockchain. So
there's a few services that do it today.
what?
So I said there's a few services that do it today on
Yeah,
Ethereum.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I cannot list anyone, but this was, I mean, the yeah, probably the first attempt to do it uh, to adapt any API for the blockchain. And also he offered a sort of attestation service that the data taken was not manipulated. So to the proposal of Mike Kern, he added those two extensions, and it's quite an interesting solution for that time, interesting and useful solution. But when Ethereum came out, he of course extended Oraclize version also for Ethereum. And the problem was that since all the developer shift to Ethereum, the Bitcoin version was basically not utilized anymore. And at the end, in 2016, he dismissed the Bitcoin version because there were not a user base for it. And well, Oraclize, I mean, it's still active at the moment. He lost a bit of traction with the advent of alternatives. As you said, now there are many other services that
Well, I
offer
think what are they called now? It's P Network,
provable,
Provable.
provable things because they are expanded also their I mean services in other things that are not related with blockchain, so they prefer to make them more I mean a name that could be used for many other things. And uh, but they lost a bit of traction, I believe, also because Thomas was a bit too honest, because he thought, okay, we don't need a token because, of course, many oracles don't need a token, and he did the most honest thing by that time. He said, okay, we don't need a token, we don't launch a token, and I believe that was the reason that made them lose a bit of traction compared to other oracle, because of course with the token you can attract speculators and a lot of people that are more interested in trading in tokens than in the project. But also they make a big user base. So yeah, I think that was the only mistake that he made by that time. If he,
Well, I mean, the earlier Oracle designs, like even most of the ones on Bitcoin, they were relatively trusted. These weren't like
yeah,
decentralized oracles in any way. You were basically just Thomas was running a server, and he would basically listen for it, and then he would send something back to your,
yeah, I mean,
he would.
it was a very simple design, simple and trusted design. I mean, from a business oriented point of view, probably launching a token would have been
Oh, completely. Yeah, because he would have been. Well, I mean, he was back when he launched Oraclize. It was like pre the whole ICOs.
yeah,
You couldn't do anything. But yeah, I mean, I remember using Oraclize right whenever I was starting to build on Ethereum, and you would basically send Thomas a quarter
yeah,
worth
yeah,
of ETH, and then with like an event that said like call this API, and he would send back the results to your smart
yeah,
contract.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, they were simple design and but useful by the time because you don't have many other alternative. So
Yeah, no, people like actual smart contracts were using it. There was, there was like money riding on it as far as,
definitely.
people were locking it, and it was just all that was available. So,
Yeah, yeah. That Thomas also sent me some proof actually that their Oracle had many calls at the beginning. Oraclize was very utilized. I saw its first Oracle address, and it had many calls, like thousand and thousand of calls in 1 month. So I mean, it was. Um yeah, a lot of early application on Ethereum and also Bitcoin leveraged on its Oracle. But of course, when you have many other alternative now in the market, yeah, that there is there's more competition. Well, after Oraclize, I think the most direct extension also to my current solution was Odyssey, and Odyssey was developed by Thomas Kalinko and other two fellows, and he developed this oracle in order to launch a stablecoin on the Bitcoin protocol because he wanted to have a data feed to update the rate of this stablecoin, and they wanted to have like an oracle with multiple data source that should have been trusted actors from traditional finance. So basically, the uh, the difference with my current solution was that you had two users, then the oracle, but with Odyssey, you didn't have just one oracle, but more oracle, so that they add their signature to add to the contract. But those oracle in his design should have been only trusted uh, institution, so it was not open to anyone. Should have been like an important bank, an important financial institution, so only big and trusted institution that had to vouch with their trust, okay, with their actual trust and reliability. And he wanted to leverage on a on the multi-sig protocol. But the problem was that the multi-sig protocol he was using had a maximum number of keys of 15. So basically, since he had a maximum number of keys that was 15, and you must have at least two users in a multi-signature contract, you could add no more than 13 oracles. However, if you add 13 oracles, the oracles were more than the user. So if they collude, they could move money around without the agreement of users. So they understood that if they increase the number of signature belonging to Oracle, they had to increase also the number of signature belonging to users. So with a maximum number of 15 signature, the maximum number of oracle is just 7, because if you have 7 signature belonging to oracles, the other 8 should belong to the users, because just to balance the power of keys. So of course this was a big problem, because he wanted the number of oracle to be large, to be trusted, okay, and decentralized. So the maximum was 7. But there was also another problem with Odyssey, that basically Odyssey transactions were not going through, because were unlikely to be mined. As we said before, there was a part of the community that was not keen of having script on Bitcoin. So if a miner was managed by people that didn't want script, they just rejected transaction including script. Okay, so they didn't want to include them into blocks. And also there was another problem, because the other part of the community that was keen in having script on Bitcoin was not keen on having script involving more than 3 keys. And he wanted to have at least 15 keys. So basically, his transactions were very hard to be mined, and he had to partner with a mining pool that was called Eligius, to be able to mine his transaction. And Eligius by that time had like 7% of the hash rate, and with 7% of the hash rate, you can mine a block at every 8, 15. You can manage to put one, so it's a transaction every 1 hour and a half, roughly. Now I think Eligius is not even around.
Well, I mean, back then, so I guess the mining pools, they wouldn't just include the biggest transaction with the highest fee. Like, like, because now, like in Ethereum, like the miners just
Yeah.
ideally don't care, and if you pay the biggest fees, they're going to include your block. You know,
At that time, it was more political, I'll say.
yeah,
You
for
just
sure.
have to negotiate which transaction to include and which not. So it was a bit different environment.
And when was this?
Uh, 2014, first quarter,
Yeah.
second quarter of 2014. And then basically for those two reasons, because he wanted to create a data feed for a stablecoin, but with a transaction every 2 hours. So it it was not really doable, and he wanted to advertise his Oracle as decentralized with many data feed, but the real maximum number was 7. So it was not coherent with their aim. So they, at the end, they abandoned this project at the end of 2014, I believe. They stayed around just for a few months, just to uh, be conscious that it was not technically possible. But it was a really good project in theory. They
Super cool.
probably had to choose for another mechanism, not for a multisig. They should for something
And
different.
imagine how different Bitcoin would have gone if like people would have just hopped on the stablecoin route. It would have been
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
wild.
And it is what someone else did a bit later. Um, well, after Odyssey, I decided to talk about reality keys, because reality keys was one of the first attempts, probably the first, to try to avoid all the problem, all the um, uh, limitation and constraint that we had on Bitcoin. And well, Edmund, well, you interviewed Edmund some months ago, and I saw that he described Reality If, which is the last version of Reality Keys that is running on Ethereum, which is a really good oracles. And uh, in the past, it worked totally different, because it had to comply to the Bitcoin environment, which we already said it was very rough, let's say. And so but he managed, actually, because we know that Edmund is a very lovely person, probably one of the most lovely person in this space, and his oracle reflected his person. He was very polite. His oracle was very polite, let's say,
For sure.
because because to
Well,
avoid.
yeah, no, I remember interviewing him, and I was like, how do you make money off of this? And he just dismissed it. Oh, I don't make any money
No,
off
no,
of
no,
doing
no.
this.
But he's not interested in money at all.
Yeah,
He just wanted to contribute to the cause. He really wanted to do something for the community. For example, he started by trying to use Bitcoin to implement Bitcoin in OpenSim, just as a simple user. He was not a developer, an official developer for OpenSim. He said, okay, probably we can use Bitcoin, this peer-to-peer currency, as an official currency for OpenSim. That was an open alternative to Second Life. Okay, so he said, oh, that can maybe fit here. So let's try to contribute to the code without any interest, totally without any interest in it. So, but he was captured. Also, he was captured by McCann speech in London. So he said, "Oh, that's very interesting. Let's try to build an oracle for the community." So, also in this case, he wanted to build an oracle to help the community without really an interest on making money in some way. So he didn't have like a business idea on how to make money out of it. He just wanted to help the community. He understood that the community needed an oracle, and he wanted to help.
yep.
I really appreciate Edmund. I don't know if it's if it's clear.
It's
Yeah,
super cool when you meet people
yeah,
like that.
super cool, definitely, definitely. So let's explain why it was polite, this oracle, because it was built off chain. So he had this idea of building this oracle off chain, so the development of reality keys was not interfering at all with Bitcoin. So he made many change updates, and these things will not did never interfered with Bitcoin development. Um, and to adapt to the scripts of Bitcoin, uh, he made this oracle capable of answering only yes no question, just binary question. So it was easier to make script just for binary questions. So for example, if you had a question like will Bitcoin be price, for example, be major or equal to $400 by the 2nd of March 2014, you just made this question on the Reality Keys website. And what the website did was publishing two public keys, one corresponding to the yes answer and one corresponding to the no answer. So when they were aware of the answer, it was kind of manual at the beginning. It was kind of, they just checked the answer, and then they what they did was publishing the private key corresponding to the right public key. So basically, if the answer was yes, then they publish the private key corresponding to the yes public key, and that's it. That was no, no, it's not. It was not to.
Oh, and then okay, so then once you have the private key, then what could happen? Like, so if you
Yeah,
were running
basically,
that script,
I mean, from their side, it was finished. So what they did was publishing the right private key. But what the user did with those keys was up to the user. Okay, so they could just receive the private key and settle this bet between themselves without using Bitcoin at all. Say, okay, we received the private key. They say this is the winning bet, the winning key, and we settle this on our own. Or they could, in advance, write some sort of scripts on Bitcoin, and then with the private key, they could unlock the money if they locked the money with some sort of contracts. So it was totally up to the user to write the right contract, and so the security was up to the users, so the level of security and the number of signature. So of course this involved maybe writing some scripts or some multi-signature contract that, you know, it's still a sort of script that was not really accepted by Bitcoin community, but it was not done by the Reality Keys team, so they were not the bad guys at the end. I mean, no, it's just kidding. But I mean, the user could just create a simple contract without really interfering with Bitcoin code at all. So it was really a good attempt to avoid messing with Bitcoin code in the early stage. Of course, they also switched to Ethereum when Ethereum came out for many reasons, because at the beginning they replied to the answer manually, but then they automated the answer thanks to Freebase, which was a service run by Google. It was a repository of information. So they relied 100% of Freebase on Freebase to answer the question in an automatic way. But Freebase was shut down, so they were a bit,
Dangers of middlemen.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry for them because they had to dismantle this this project because they didn't have many other trusted alternative. And then there was also the problem that the Bitcoin price increased and developers fled from Bitcoin to Ethereum, so there was no user base. The same as Oraclize. I mean, the same problem. There were no users for Bitcoin alternative, and also because on Ethereum they could switch from a yes/no question to, you know, more elaborated question that they have now. They also rebranded the name. It was Reality Keys. Then from Reality Keys they switched from Realityo, and from Realityo they changed to Reality If. And yeah, and I mean, and we know that what Reality If is now. So, and it's completely different, and it's still active also, and it's still generous Oracle. I mean, it's still not very business oriented. It's more for,
There's still no token, no
yeah,
business. Yeah,
yeah. But
great.
I mean, I'm sure that Edmund will have what is deserved in
Sure.
in his path. And well, another project after this one, another project that I found very interesting for his history and for his contribution to oracles was Counterparty, because they tried to build an oracle, well, in a different way that the one proposed by Mike Horn. And basically the Counterparty was possible because, well, in 2013, Bitcoin Core developer announced that with version 090, the op return function would have been standardized under a specific threshold. We know that op return is a function that thanks to which you can add metadata to Bitcoin transaction, but before that, uh, the transaction would result into a non-standard, so it was not automatically relayed by nodes, so it was difficult to have it mined into a blocks. So but from that version, op return with a payload under a specific threshold would have been accepted as a standard transaction, and this opened a wide range of possibility for application to be built on Bitcoin. Of course, also oracles, but also other applications. For example, we had academic records on Bitcoin thanks to this innovation. And one of these innovation, one of these project that could leverage on this opportunity was Mastercoin. Mastercoin was creator was J.R. Willett, that is famous because he launched the first ever ICO. He managed to raise like 5,000 Bitcoin by the time, 500,000 dollar. It was very big amount. And Mastercoin was a big project, very great project, and it was rebranded into Omni in 2015, and so to bring token on the Bitcoin network. And so it's a good project and it's a great project, but at the beginning some enthusiasts thought that it was developing a bit slow, so it had a lot of potential, but they they thought that it was not developing fast. You know, when a project is launched and we are enthusiasts, we want it to be very fast in its development, so
Yep.
user
I
want.
think this was Vitalik, right?
I don't know who is it.
Well, I know Vitalik had said in the past you had originally looked at building Ethereum on
Yeah,
top of
I will.
Bitcoin.
I, I will expand on
Oh,
that.
sorry, I'm jumping
No, no,
ahead.
no, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I mean, one of those people, not Vitalik, but one of those developer, um, then uh, were inspired on Mastercoin and launched another similar project, but with other feature and also with a built-in Oracle, and they called it Counterparty. Okay, and Counterparty was also launched with token, launched with a proof of burn mechanism, so they renounced to any sort of funding. Well, I found that before Ethereum, many projects were very generous. They renounced to the funding because they were afraid of taking money with cryptocurrencies, which turn out to be not really serious as as a as a mean of making a capital. And basically, the really interesting part of this story was the fact that Counterparty, along with other projects, were involved into a dispute called Op Return War. Many people do not know about this issue, and some people think that it never happened, that it wasn't true, that there was a dispute. But it was a very interesting part
Well,
of.
this is super relevant actually, given the whole ordinals discussion right now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so if you're watching this, go listen up.
Yeah, yeah, but and I mean, it's a really important part of the history, and if you find podcasts talking about it, they're not really impartial, because basically it's yeah, it's a dispute between Bitcoin core developer and third party developer on the sides of the op return payload. Okay, and information are very contrasting on this. And I think in the article that I shared, I've pointed out what happened in a very impartial way, adding all the information to understand why they uh, didn't understand each other actually by that time, because now it's a bit clearer, but by the time they started to fight, basically what happened was that the core developer announced the 090 version coming in 2014, so in the first quarter of 2014. So the characteristic of having standardized op return under a certain threshold should have been available in the first quarter of 2014. The problem was that they had to test this feature, so they released a sort of pre-release in the third quarter of 2013. So technically, it was already standardized by that time at 80 byte. They just pick 80 byte as a random number just to make some test. That was the truth, actually. They just picked a random number to make some test, and they launched it without advertising it, because they didn't want this feature to be used by a regular user. They just wanted to make tests before the official launch. The problem was that, of course, people that was building on Bitcoin saw that feature, and they implemented that feature in their project. So Counterparty used that, Mastercoin used that. They were using this standardized operator at 80 byte, and without any problem, they were using that. But what happened was that when there was the official release in 2014, the op return was slashed at 40 byte, because core developer thought that 40 byte was enough. And those application developer uh, thought that this slash was intentional, and it was an attempt to censor their protocols. Okay, and because they were not aware that this feature was provisional, so they shouldn't have implemented this feature in their protocol before the official launch. That was the problem, because they didn't even know that it was not standard before the 2013. They thought it was always been standard, the op return. But the truth is that it was not a standard feature of Bitcoin. And also there were episodes
Up for
like
debate.
what?
I would say it's up for. I mean, that was like, I don't know. Like, to me in the time, like, it was one of those things. Like, what do you mean it's not standard? It's been here, you know. Like, and but then because like part of the whole standards debate is always like, well, who determines what's standard?
No,
You
no,
know.
I totally agree. I mean, standard, it just means that something is technically possible, but a part of the community has concern about executing or using some sort of feature. That is, well, the meaning of standard, because since it's an open protocol, there are no rules, actually. So yeah, but
Well, this was sort of the preliminary block size debate, I guess you would say.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But then it become harsh and harsh and harsh. Then it resulted into a fork, because they had very different and incompatible vision. And of course, as you said before, uh, the op return war also affected Ethereum development, or this is what Vitalik Buterin said. He made some tweets, because he said that the original idea of Ethereum was supposed to be like a meta chain on top of Bitcoin, and then he thought about changing to Prime Coin, because on Bitcoin there was the op return war, and then he made a separate chain since he had the capital to do that. So um, but many people thought that was not really true, because for the future uh, advertised in Ethereum, they would have never fit the meta chain style, so they would have never been used into a meta chain. So there is a big debate on that, because they say that it's it is an attempt. It was an attempt to launch other project, blaming Bitcoin Core developer to be unfriendly. Okay, so I think we will never know the truth of of what happened, but I think we don't have like an evil party. Everyone has his own reason to act in a certain way.
That's very civil of you to say. You can blame people here. It's safe.
No, 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 no. I would actually, but I found many information on that aspect, and it doesn't seem that that any of the two party was acting in a way to make some sort of I don't know, some sort of batting against the other party. They were sure that their party was the good one. Okay, so they were defending an interest uh, for the world community. So they thought that the other party was just creating division. Okay, so uh, none of the two party was really the bad party. Let's say that. And well, I didn't say anything about the Counterparty Oracle module actually, which was the interesting part
You're
about
just,
history.
you're just on a Bitcoin history lesson here. It's,
Yeah, but the Bitcoin history is important in this
yeah,
in this space. And well, the Counterparty Oracle module actually is still available. It's still available and is still active, and it's very simple because basically what you can do with Counterparty, you open a wallet, and in the wallet there are some sort of features, some sort of option, and in this option there is like feed broadcast option. And with this feed broadcast option, paying a fee, you can just broadcast some information like Bitcoin is at 22,000. This president has won the election, or is raining in New York. Anyone can do that. They just publish a feed on the exchange. Okay. You can say, is that trusted? Well, anyone. Well, I mean, it's an interesting mechanism because it's open in the sense that anyone can launch a feed. Okay,
yeah.
but the community can give a feedback on the people that are writing feeds. So, for example, I launch a feed on the exchange and I write Bitcoin is at this price at this time, and other user can give a star to my feed, like 1 to 5 star, like TripAdvisor, something like this, and also make some comment. And this is the mechanism of their Oracle. It's very simple. It's still active, not really used outside Counterparty, but it works, and it's one of the still available Oracle on
Cool.
Bitcoin. Uh, I was thinking if it is the only one now, probably. Yeah, we don't have many Oracle left in 2023 on Bitcoin. Well, the last Oracle I presented in the paper, and I presented last year, is Truthcoin. And I would say in advance that Truthcoin, in my opinion, is probably the best Oracle mechanism so far. And probably because it's not launched. So we don't, so we don't have any
The game
negative
theory.
things to
Yeah.
say about it. Well, no, I was just kidding. Well, basically, Truthcoin was launched by Paul Stork. I don't know if you have had a deep dive with with Paul Stork. Okay. Uh, well, basically, he was shocked by in trade uh, shutdown, and he wanted to leverage.
InTrade was, for those listening, InTrade was a prediction
Yeah,
market.
it was a prediction market platform, actually, a very big prediction market platform. He was closed. Uh, the reason are not very well, not official, let's say.
The CFTC shut them down, right?
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
not
No.
not in an official way.
Yeah. No.
Let's say that
You. Yeah.
they started to shut down some small features of InTrade and some market of InTrade, but at the end they decided to close the the whole system. And well, Paul Stork was very interested in prediction market, and he wanted to leverage Bitcoin to launch a prediction market that it could not be shut down, could not be closed. And he told me that he was not interested at all in oracles. But since he had to launch a prediction market on Bitcoin, he needed an oracle to make it work. So he had to launch one. Well, the truth is that he could launch an application and then utilize another oracle, like Reality Keys or Oraclize or something else. But his concern was that if some of this market would have been very large in value, then, as you know, the biggest is the total value locked, and the biggest is the chance for it to be manipulated or hacked. So he thought it was better to create his own oracle, and also because he didn't want to have a data feed. He wanted to have just a specific oracle for events, like for prediction market, specific for prediction market. And the development of Truthcoin was very influenced by Bitcoin environment in general, because we had the op return war, the block size war, and Paul Stock was very touched by those events. He was afraid that those events would have happened also in his system, and he thought that probably those events happened on Bitcoin because the white paper was very small and it didn't provide a lot of information, a lot of detailed information on some feature of Bitcoin. There was not very specific information on the size of a block. Nakamoto said it is something that it can be modified with time, but without specifying how and with which pace, in which occasion. So everything was open to interpretation, and for this reason, people fight between each other. So he thought that his white paper should have been. Paul Stork thought that his white paper should have been very detailed, so that nobody could interpret things in a different way. So if you see the white paper, it's like 80 page. So there's no way of interpreting things differently with matrix numbers and all technical stuff. So I mean, it was it wanted to be very detailed in his project, and also he was very concerned with the possibility of being labeled as a scammer, because there were all those projects emerging in 2014, 15, all those alternatives to Bitcoin, and there were Bitcoin maximalists that said, okay, every other alternative is a scam. Even Ethereum, it was labeled as scam. Still,
Ethereum
some
still a scam to
maximalists
most people,
think that it's
right?
still a scam, actually. So, and the problem was that since Stork was very putting all his effort on his work, he was really afraid that someone would have said, okay, your project is a scam. He was really afraid of that. Even if it was totally, genuine, but he didn't want people to call his project a scam. So he was afraid of launching this project at all. So it's still not launched. And for this reason, he wanted to strictly adhere to Nakamoto idea to avoid that maximalist would have named his project as a scam. So he said, okay, Nakamoto, what Nakamoto said? External data should have been put on a sidechain. Okay, let's build Truthcoin on a sidechain. So nobody can tell anything about my oracle. So he wanted to build this project on a sidechain, and he had to wait for a sidechain to be developed. And he's still waiting for a sidechain to be developed. And the problem is that we still don't have a working sidechain for Bitcoin. They started to theorizing it in 2010. Blockstream has some private sidechain.
Like what liquid or
What?
what's the current sidechain run by Blockstream? But
What do you mean?
anyway, no,
Yeah.
continue.
Okay. I mean, he's still waiting for a sidechain. So that was a big limitation for Paul Stork, and he is now trying to develop his own sidechain named.
Well, a lot of the ideas of Truthcoin though were sort of grabbed by some of the other oracles on Ethereum.
Yeah, because basically, since he was waiting for the sidechain, he had a lot of time. That was it. Because since he was waiting for the sidechain, he said, "Okay, let's make this oracle good." Okay, so he refined all the automatic market maker in basically um, drawn from the from the Hanson concept of logarithmic market scoring rules. So he described this concept on his in his white paper. He probably uh, we can find this concept. So this concept of automatic market maker can be found for the first time in Truthcoin white paper. So probably he was the first to bring hands-on logarithmic market scoring rules into the blockchain field. And also probably he was the first one to introduce the concept of salience, inspired by Thomas Schelling focal point. So yeah, probably was the first one also to introduce this concept. And it's plausible, since they came later, that also Schelling coin, Augur were inspired by Truthcoin, because, well, I mean, it's very, very good white paper. The concept is very well described. It is based on economic theory, and those theories are well described, well written. All the matrix are well done. So yeah, it's a white paper that not just inspired project in the Oracle space, but also other project in the world blockchain space.
I
If
think
we
wasn't Paul an advisor to Augur?
uh, not an advisor as far as I know, but at the beginning they they were just I mean like, well, not an official advisor. He was put in the website, like in the frequent asked question section, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and at the beginning, as far as I know, Augur should have been like the practical application of Truthcoin, but on Ethereum. This was the idea at the beginning, as far as I understood. But then mm, they didn't actually work together, as far as I know. And yeah, and well, the real problem of Truthcoin, for which is still not launched, is that Paul wanted to do everything, uh, let's say, alone. Well, because not because he didn't want to work with other people, but he was afraid of having to do with scammer, actually, because he didn't want to be labeled as a scammer. So he was very concerned about working with other people, because he was really a genuine person. He was working a lot on his project, drawing upon real economic theories, studying a lot. He studied a lot, and all those theories are, well, really well taken from economics. And so he was really concerned about working with other people. But the problem, I think, that is this Oracle design is very complex for a single person to be built, and there is also this problem of sidechain. And so I don't know if we will ever see Truthcoin launched. I hope so, but I mean, now we can also rely on some other groups, because I don't think anyone can think that he's a scammer. I mean, he has some sort of reputation, so he can give the development to also to other groups. So I mean, and then we will maybe see Truthcoin online on the Bitcoin on a Bitcoin sidechain. That would be probably the first good project on a Bitcoin sidechain, if I miss some other. And well, that was the last project that I inserted in the paper. I'm also planning to insert information about some others. There are a project from Allen Piscitello that worked in Blockstream. There is also another project from Charles Hope that was called Early Temple, that are attempt to build an oracle on Bitcoin, but they never went through. And I will probably add some other information on this in some next version of the paper. But this is the main plot. And if you ask me, I think that you will ask me, what is the future of Oracle? And
I guess you want the question. Here's the question. Yeah. What is the future of Oracle?
well, just kidding. I really shared the vision of Mike Hearn about the future of Oracle, and I already had this vision, but talking with him, I strengthened this view that the future of oracles are not oracles, actually, because I think that oracles, well, it's a IT solution born in 1939, so it's a bit old. And I believe that now, with artificial intelligence and with trusted computing technology, we can, we, well, not me, because I cannot do that, but but the community can develop something uh, as an alternative to Oracle, so some other system based on trusted computing. I think trusted computing is a very good alternative to Oracle, because it doesn't involve like a third party, a trusted third party. You only have machine, intelligent machine, and if they are programmed well, they should behave well as oracles. And of course, they have to be refined, but I believe that is the future, artificial intelligence in any case.
All right. Yeah. No, it's a good take. I think we're a ways away from
Well,
the the
probably,
AI bots.
I don't know if we are very far from there, because now, with the emergence of ChatGPT and other, you know, other feature, I think we are not very far from there. I cannot say how many years,
Sure.
but I don't think we are very far from there.
All right.
Yeah,
No, hot take. This was fascinating.
yeah. I don't know if it
Anything?
was very long. Probably I take a lot of time. We should cut something.
No, no, it's perfect. Any
Well, the
to kind
history
of
is long,
close,
you know.
yes, to kind of close out, anywhere that people can find you or find the paper.
Oh,
Do you want to tell
definitely
them? What
on Google Scholar. On Google Scholar, you can find my profile. It's just write Giulio Caldarelli, and also on LinkedIn. And on Google Scholar, there are all my papers. And probably we can add the link to the paper in this video, maybe. And yeah, it's really easy to find me, actually.
Super cool. Well, thank you so much. This
Thank
was
you.
a blast, and yeah,